Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. I really miss doing movie reviews. I did like a ton of them on my old channel, which I wish I downloaded some of those. They were pretty fun. I mostly watched a lot of like old movies or a lot of like foreign films too. I guess I'm kind of back to doing that, but I really missed it because this isn't just a gaming channel where I just have like a ton of Pikmin videos. This is also like a movie review channel because I like watching movies, and then I think it's just fun to talk about them. So there's like a billion Wizard of Oz like sequels and stuff. There's like a surprisingly large amount of animated ones as well. I don't remember how I had originally heard of this movie. I think it was when I was like trying to research all the stuff that Don Bluth made, and I found out about this movie. And then I found out that Liza Minnelli voices Dorothy, and I'm like, okay, I'm sold. I need to watch this movie. I ended up finding it on Internet Archive, which is kind of nice because I don't think you can like find this one anywhere. I didn't find it on like any streaming services, but it was just there. It's from 1972, and I really like the art style and like the animation and stuff. It's like a very colorful movie. I don't really know a ton of stuff in terms of like the Wizard of Oz books because I know there's like sequel books to the Wizard of Oz, but I've watched like a couple of the sequel movies, and some of the characters were kind of like familiar. Like there's usually like a pumpkin character and stuff. I think the horse was new though. I didn't remember the horse. But this one's cool. It's about Dorothy. She wants to go back to Oz. And then there's like this witch character that's like the cousin to the Wicked Witch or whatever. So she tries to go to see the Scarecrow and some of her old friends. That's the weird thing with this poster is like it has like her original friends and stuff like on like front and center on it. But like they're not really in the movie. Like she only has like two new companions and then sometimes the Scarecrow, and he gets taken out of the plot like almost immediately, but he gets the most screen time out of her new friends, probably because he's like the king of Oz now. And then the Tin Man and the Lion I feel like had cool designs. I like the Tin Man's little like bow tie and stuff, and they're like the leaders of their own like regions of Oz or whatever, but they're only in the movie for like 5 seconds, and it's basically like Dorothy goes to them for help, and then they're like, yeah, no thanks, and then that's pretty much it, and they don't really like come back in the movie or anything, if I remember right. So that was a bit of a bummer. But this one's a musical. It's pretty cool. I liked the songs for the most part. They got like a lot of like famous people for this movie. I was surprised. I think it was like a made for television movie too, but I'd have to like check the Wikipedia page again. But like all of Dorothy's songs are pretty good. The villain, I think her name's Mombi, is voiced by Ethel Merman. So, and she gets a villain song, and it's like pretty cool about this character's backstory of like being a witch in a successful witch family or whatever. I really liked Dorothy's companions for this. Like the pumpkin was easily my favorite. I absolutely loved his design. I noticed there's a lot of like kind of nature themed designs with the characters, and I thought that was kind of cool. Like his limbs kind of look like vines a little bit. He's like this very lanky, clumsy character, so he always has like cool animation and stuff, and he kind of sounds like an old man a little bit and kind of just nervous all the time, but he was my favorite. I was glad he got a lot of screen time. And then there's this like pink carousel horse that I don't even think is on. Yeah, the horse is just straight up not on the poster, which is really weird because he's like Dorothy's secondary companion, but he's pretty cool too because like he's introduced like before he even says anything. He's like this pink carousel horse that's like stuck on a pole, and he has kind of a silly design. It kind of reminded me of the like camel with the crooked knees, I think he's called, from the Raggedy Ann movie. Not like they have similar personalities or something, but like the design of their face is kind of similar. And I thought, oh, this like pink carousel horse, I thought he was gonna be like kind of dopey and he was gonna have like goofy voice, and he sounds like a detective in like a noir film or something. He has like this very deep voice, which I did not expect for like the pink carousel horse. And he's like surprisingly angry too. Like they meet him and he's just like, get me off this stupid pole. And his whole it's weird because like I've always viewed Oz as like this like magical land or whatever. That's what it's supposed to be with like Dorothy's journey and stuff. And then the horse's whole situation is like he can't hold a job. He has trouble with the job market and he hated working as a carousel horse. And the only reason he even ends up joining Dorothy in the first place is he wants a job so badly, and he finds out Dorothy's friends with the Scarecrow, who's like the king of Oz now, and he's like, hey, if you can hook me up, I'll come with you. But he is like a pretty loyal companion, and his dynamic with the Pumpkinhead is pretty interesting, where the pumpkin will be like super clumsy or screw things up or whatever, and then the horse kind of like nudges him along and stuff, and is like trying to keep him in check. What else? And then the characters don't really get like too many songs, like the side characters or anything. Like the circus horse gets a song, but like I felt like the voice actor couldn't really sing that well. But there's like this fun like circusy music in the horse song, which is cool. I also don't know the name of any of these titles. The Pumpkinhead doesn't end up getting a song, which I thought was kind of surprising. But the character who did get a song was this, like, signpost Dorothy meets, like, once in the beginning, and it never shows up again. But I thought it had a cool design, because it's, like, pointing in 3 different directions. It's, like, primary colored. But the direction posts of the signpost are, like, its arms, and it's, like, it's very animated for, like, a signpost that's stuck in the ground, but it ends up getting a song even though it's not really like a character at all except for like one scene. So yeah, the songs are kind of a hit or miss, but for the most part they're pretty good, and I really liked the background music as well. It just felt very calming. It reminded me of like music with strings and like older movies, or like older Disney movie music kind of vibe, where it's like very like from the 50s and 60s. It felt very soft and sweet, which I feel like that makes sense because it's a movie from like 1972, so it's like basically the 60s. But yeah, this has like a pretty basic plot where it's like Dorothy is happy to be in Oz again, and she ends up gaining her 2 companions. And then I thought it was interesting the villain actually does win, like, towards the beginning of the movie. Like, Dorothy goes all the way to the Scarecrow to warn him about this, like, witch character. And the Scarecrow has this whole little song about, like, having a brain, but then not being able to use it, so it's kind of useless. Not like he's stupid or anything, but it's this whole thing about like having a brain doesn't make you smart, you actually have to use it, and he's honestly like so right with that. And I just thought that character growth was like really interesting, because like, you know, Dorothy's companions are given all these gifts at the end of the first movie, or the original movie I should say, where it's like the heart, the intelligence, and the whatever and stuff, and they're like given these things, and then they realize like in this one of, oh, you know, it didn't really solve my problem of just having these objects and stuff. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and the Scarecrow being so excited to see Dorothy again was kind of sweet too. But yeah, Dorothy makes it to the Emerald City Castle or whatever. The villain sort of wins. I thought her plan was kind of dumb, because it's like, she's a witch, you think she would have really cool magic, but the only thing, she doesn't even ride on like a broom or anything, if I remember correctly. She just shows up with these like giant green elephants, and that's like, they're made out of like magic or whatever. Like, she uses magic to like create them in a cauldron or something, but I'm just like, really, that's like the best you can do. But she ends up winning somehow, and then Dorothy has to leave, and then the Scarecrow ends up getting kidnapped almost like immediately after meeting him, and she has to go. She ends up wasting a bunch of time going to like her older friends, like the Tin Man, who has his own little land and whatever. He also kind of sounds like a car salesman, and then the Cowardly Lion, and it's basically like she goes to them and she's like, hey, can you help out? And then once they hear about the giant green elephants or whatever, they're just like, nah, we got other stuff to do. And that's just, I don't know, that didn't really sit right with me, because they were like so loyal to her in the first movie, even though they like were scared and stuff, like to fight the original Wicked Witch. And then here it's like they're just randomly afraid of these elephants, and they, to the point where they just refuse to help Dorothy. So there's like a sort of middle chunk of the movie that's like kind of useless, basically. I think it's just an excuse to like have the characters like in the movie again. Like it's nice to see her older companions and she gets to see them again, but I don't know, it just felt out of character for me. And then she goes to see Glinda, and Glinda's design is like pretty cool actually. It's sort of like 60s-ish. Um and she kind of looks like a fairy to me, and it took me a little while to realize her design. She actually doesn't have any pink or anything, so I didn't recognize her immediately. Is supposed to look like a flower. She's the lady in all yellow on this poster. I'm not really sure why they changed her design though. Like they made Mombi kind of look like the Wicked Witch in the original movie a bit, or like what you would think of for a Wicked Witch, except she has red hair. And then Glinda is like not even recognizable or anything, but her design literally looks like a flower where she has this like kind of long poofy-ish dress, and then her hair is like that big orange part of a flower, and then she has this white stuff on her head that's like the little stem thingies inside the flower. I thought that was kind of like weird, and like why is she suddenly floral themed, but like design wise I think it's pretty cool. I think it's like a fun way to give her a unique design. But she has this like song that I thought was cool. It was like really pretty, and it's this whole sequence about I think like believing yourself or whatever. And there's this whole little animated sequence of this silhouette of Dorothy that's like kind of flying around. It was like really well animated. I wasn't sure if it was like, I almost thought it was like rotoscoped or something, but it was pretty cool. And then what else? And Glinda's basically like, yeah, the power was inside you all along or whatever. And I don't even actually remember how Dorothy uh, ends up defeating the villain. I actually really liked the beginning of the movie and like the characters she meets and stuff, but then it's like once she's forced to leave the Emerald City and she's like trying to recruit her old companions or whatever, then I just kind of felt really bored for the rest of the movie. Like I was sort of interested again once she meets Glinda. But yeah, I don't remember how she like stops the villain. It's not like water or anything this time. And she also doesn't have the ruby shoes. The ruby slippers like aren't even a thing in this movie. Dorothy just has like normal shoes. Yeah, but she ends up stopping the villain, and the horse ends up getting a job, and the pumpkin head also gets a job. And it's kind of weird where like at the beginning of the movie when she's still on the farm and stuff, Dorothy is saying how she really wants to go back to Oz, and then at the end of this movie she's like, nah, I want to go home, you know, not like desperately wanting to go home, but she's like, oh, my relatives probably miss me or whatever. And then she ends up going back home, and that's like pretty much the whole movie. But yeah, it was pretty good. I liked the character designs a lot. Just like how they were drawn and stuff. The pumpkin was easily my favorite. And it had some good like musical numbers and stuff. Like I'm probably not gonna watch like every single like Wizard of Oz sequel and stuff. I am curious about some of the animated ones, but I don't know, they kind of vary in quality. Like there's one from the 2010s, I think, that I ended up watching where I think like Dan Aykroyd voices the Scarecrow or something. And that one had like the same credit sequence as this movie at the beginning, where it shows Dorothy being sucked up in the tornado and all these objects relating to characters flying around, and then it would have like who voiced those characters and stuff. So that was kind of interesting. I don't know if that was inspired by this movie. And then I know there's some kind of like 80s sequel where it's like one of those like dark fantasy films, and that one was pretty good, where they also have the pumpkin head, but he's like literally a jack-o'-lantern, and Dorothy has like a chicken or something. I'm thinking rewatching that again. I don't know. I've just kind of had Wizard of Oz like on the brain in general because I had like rewatched the original movie, and then I went to go see Wicked like 3 times in theaters or something. But yeah, I might check out more of these. I always just find it interesting whether it's like this or Alice in Wonderland, where there's like a billion different versions and then it ends up getting like sequels and stuff. Just the fact there's like so many Wizard of Oz sequels, whether like animated or live action, is just like really interesting to me. But yeah, I kind of want to watch more movies and do more reviews on here. I've also thought about watching Thumbelina, the one from 1994, because I'm trying to watch all the Don Bluth films. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on Journey Back to Oz. I liked it. Thanks for listening.